I locked that steel gate with my own hands, thinking it was the simplest way to protect my family's lake. And 30 minutes later, my HOA president, Karen Morrison, was screaming at me in front of 12 strangers, calling the police and accusing me of stealing community property. I thought she was just being dramatic until I opened the county land records and realized she'd built an entire criminal empire on my lake, and I'd just shattered it without even knowing. I didn't move to Lakeview Meadows looking for a fight. I moved because I wanted quiet, peace. After 15 years as a real estate attorney, I'd finally retired early, inherited my uncle's place, and planned on spending my mornings on the porch with coffee and my afternoons with a fishing rod. Brennan Family Lake had been in my family since 1947. My grandfather bought the 3.2 acres with money from 2 jobs. To me, that lake wasn't just water, it was history. It was home. And then on one random Saturday, I came back from a hardware store run and saw smoke drifting up through the trees. Music blasting. Laughter. The kind of loud, entitled laughter that makes your teeth grit because you just know. Those people aren't supposed to be there. I parked, walked toward the slope, and my stomach dropped. 12 people. Coolers, fold-out chairs, a portable speaker blasting classic rock. Someone grilling steaks like this was a public campsite, and in the middle, standing there with her arms crossed like she owned the land under her feet, was Karen Morrison, the infamous HOA president. 52 blonde hair yanked into a tight ponytail pink cardigan that somehow screamed, "I'm about to ruin your week." She turned when she saw me smiling like a villain in a Sunday school morality play. "Mr. Brennan," she called out, "we've been waiting for you. This lake is a shared community resource." I kept my phone recording the whole time. "It's not," I told her. "It's private property. My property." She laughed loud and theatrical enough to get the crowd on her side. "Just because you inherited a nearby house doesn't mean you own the lake. Lakeview Meadows residents have used this water for years." I'd only been here 3 weeks, but I already knew one thing: Karen liked power, and she weaponized that clipboard of hers like a badge. So I asked, "Do you have documentation proving the HOA has rights to this lake?" For a split second, just one, I saw her smile falter, and then the Karen mask came back on. "I don't need to show you anything. We have records." "Then you won't mind bringing them?" I gestured toward the group. "They all need to leave." A man by the grill stepped forward, puffing himself up. "Come on, man. Don't be that guy." "I'm not being that guy," I said. "I'm being the guy who owns the land you're standing on." That's when Karen pulled out her phone. "Fine. I'm calling the police. You're harassing HOA members exercising their legal rights." She really thought that was a power move. Honestly, I almost smiled. "Please do. I'd love to document the trespassing." 20 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up. And as luck would have it, the deputy was Mark Hernandez, someone I'd gone to high school with. Karen practically sprinted to him, talking so fast she sounded like a blender stuck on puree. "Hostile neighbor, blocking community access, threatening families." Mark walked over. "Michael, what's going on?" I explained everything. I showed him the deed on my phone. He looked at it, nodded, and turned to Karen. "Ma'am, unless you can produce documentation, this is private property." Karen turned red. Steam coming out of her ears read, "This is insane. We have rights." But no one sided with her anymore. The police ordered everyone to leave. They packed up slowly, angry mutters drifting through the air. When Karen got to her car, she leaned out the window and hissed, "You're going to regret this. You're just one person. I have an entire community behind me." I met her stare. One person with a deed and a camera. She sped off. I spent the next morning replaying her confidence in my mind. Not just arrogance confidence, the kind people get when they're hiding something. And sure enough, when I checked the mailbox later, there was an envelope taped to my door, a notice of violation accusing me of denying community access rights, signed by her, with the HOA logo at the top. The HOA didn't even include my property. That logo was nothing more than a cheap scare tactic. And then things got creepy. Cars slowed in front of my house. People took pictures. My neighbor Gerald, who had been friendly the week before, told me quietly, "Karen told everyone you threatened families. Just be careful." I went inside, sat at my laptop, and dug deeper into county records. It took 2 hours, but what I found changed everything. Karen had filed for lake access easements 3 years ago, and the county had denied her. Denied her in writing, stamped, official, clear. Petitioner has failed to demonstrate any legal basis for easement. No shared access history exists. And she never told the HOA. My pulse kicked up. If she already knew she had no legal path to the lake, why was she so certain she controlled it? I called Tom, my closest friend, and one of the best real estate lawyers I knew. Within 24 hours, he called back with evidence that made my blood run cold. Karen had pitched the lake to a company called Harper Leisure Group, owned by businessman Ron Harper, claiming it was already approved for community access, and that she, as HOA president, could offer exclusive rights for a private fishing club. The deal, $200,000 up front, and a 30% annual management fee, for her. She had literally tried to build a personal business empire on my family's lake. But here's the worst part. She'd forged county documents to convince Harper the easement was approved, a full-blown felony. When Tom finished reading me the emails, the budgets, the forged letters, I just sat in silence, angry, stunned, and honestly, tired. Tired in a way I hadn't felt in years. There was a moment, a real one, where I wondered if any of this was worth it. The stares from neighbors, the whispers, the false accusations, the pressure of going against an entire HOA. I wondered if maybe I was escalating things. Maybe I should have just ignored them and avoided the drama. For a second I felt stupid, alone. I actually thought about selling the house and walking away from the lake my grandfather loved. But then I remembered something. A memory of him standing knee-deep in that water telling me, "Michael, the truth is like a lake. People can throw mud into it all they want, but the water always clears." And suddenly I felt something settle inside me. I wasn't backing down. Not now. Because this didn't start with me. And it wasn't just my fight. The turning point came when someone knocked on my door, Helen Martinez, the HOA treasurer. She brought a casserole, but more importantly, she brought the truth. She'd reviewed the HOA finances, $6,500 missing from the lake access budget, another $12,000 in unauthorized expenses, fake receipts, shady transactions. Everything pointed to one person, Karen. Helen looked heartbroken. "We trusted her," she told me. "She lied to all of us." That same day, Harper's attorney contacted Tom. Harper wanted to attend the next HOA meeting to confront Karen himself. And then a reporter reached out. Someone had tipped the local paper about possible HOA corruption. This wasn't a neighborhood squabble anymore. This was a scandal. The night of the HOA meeting, the community center was packed, 130 people crammed into one room. Karen stood on stage with a cheap suit lawyer and a county planning rep she'd roped in to give vague legal jargon about implied easements. She was gearing up to paint me as the villain again. But this time, I came prepared. When she finished her speech, I stood up from the back row, walked to the aisle, and said clearly, "I have a presentation." She tried to shut me down, but Helen stood and overruled her. So I walked to the front, plugged in the projector, and began. Slide after slide, the truth poured out. My grandfather's deed, dated 1947. Survey maps showing the lake 200 feet outside HOA borders. Karen's rejected petition. Emails between her and Ron Harper. The forged approval documents, the threats she texted me, Helen's financial findings, everything. The room's temperature changed. Karen went from red to pale to frozen. People shouted, "You lied to us. Where's our money? You used our dues for your personal business." Harper stood and read his own statement. He'd been defrauded of $200,000 because of Karen's forged documents. Karen snapped. She screamed that this was a setup, that I was manipulating evidence, that I wanted to steal community property. And then I clicked to the final slide. Her text messages, threatening me, word for word. A hush fell over the room. She tried to force her way out the back, but residents blocked the aisle, not touching her, just staring, betrayed and disgusted. She shoved through anyway, her lawyer chasing after her like a panicked babysitter. Tom stood and announced that all evidence had already been submitted to the district attorney's office. Fraud, embezzlement, document forgery, criminal trespass, the whole list. And just like that, Karen's empire collapsed. Her authority vanished the second she walked out of that room. Her voice, her threats, her manipulation gone. The HOA moved to remove her the next morning. The DA filed charges by the end of the week. Harper launched a lawsuit that could ruin her financially for the rest of her life. And as for me, I didn't celebrate. There wasn't anything to celebrate. Just the truth settling like mud drifting back to the bottom of a lake. Some people fight with fists or anger or loud voices. Me, I fought with evidence. And it was enough. Because in the end, the lesson is simple. When someone builds their power on lies, all it takes is the truth to bring the whole thing down.